Okay, morning. Here to do a very exciting thing, and that is to get the Threefold Zero operating system installed and allow you, me, all of us to interact with it in order to get, let's say, a sandbox environment going in which you can start to investigate what and how things should be done. What we do for this particular instance is that we don't actually get that whole token economy which sits around it, where I'm sure you've read or listened to other presentations where everybody can start a farm, and a farm is a piece of equipment which has capacity, both storage and compute. And that capacity can be rented out, a little bit like Airbnb, but then for compute or for cloud. But in order to get us started, let's simplify things, because if we want to bring in tokens and have that whole system working on top of the simple OS, then that is becoming a really complicated thing. And I'd like to show you that you can go from scratch to having this online, whether it's physical hardware or, as we will do in this demo, on a virtual machine. In the end, it's the same steps. But I'll try to talk you through and actually showcase that. So I'm going to share my screen, which will show you. Let me clean it up first, because there's a lot of things there which I don't necessarily yet want to show. Close, close, close. So now we have a completely blank sheet of paper, which is what I want to start with. That is okay. Is it not? Anyway, sorry, I'll cut this out. So, as I said, we start with a virtualization technology, and in case you don't have VirtualBox yet, you can find that quite easily if you go to a browser, and in that browser you type VirtualBox. You basically get to a website which is, again, it's sponsored by, or it's owned, sorry, not sponsored, but it's owned by Oracle. You can download it for the specific platforms that you would like to use this on. If the website works, so that, oh, it's slow, sorry, it's my connection probably. But it's got a few distributions that you can basically download it from. I currently sit on a Mac, so I downloaded the Mac version, installed it, and ran it, which is pretty straightforward. You get this then, and let's create a new virtual machine. But before doing that, we obviously have to get the zeros. No, let's create the virtual machine first. We'll call it 0 OS number 1. We might have more. It's a Linux-based operating system, but it's not Ubuntu. It's a different 64-bit Linux. We give it 4 gigs of RAM. For testing purposes, that should be enough. I'd like to add a virtual hard disk, because we, in the end, want to scratch things on a disk. It's going to be a virtual hard disk. Yes. And we will have it dynamically allocated. Again, there's no real difference in there. Fixed size will eat up disk space that you don't use. If it's dynamic, it just expands the disk as you need it, which I think is nice. Let's start with 8 gigs for the disk. That's okay. And then we have it. What we now need is, because now we want to define the parameters of what virtual hardware we use, we need to get it to have a boot image. And that boot image comes in the form of a virtual CD-ROM, an ISO file for people that know, that we can attach to this and then basically choose it. But I've got a few here, but let me show you also how you can get that. So in order to get to the 0 OS bootstrap or bootstrap files, we have a site called bootstrap.gig.tf, bootstrap.grid.tf, and I will show you this one. We'll use the assistant, very straightforward. Right now, well, for what we want to do is basically this engage all of the token economy around it, that you have to spend tokens in order to reserve capacity. We want to be able to spawn VMs and containers without actually having to own / have a wallet with tokens / have a wallet with tokens being charged for actually using it, which we can do by choosing the development branch, which has some specific options. Again, it should never be used for production. That's why it's called development. And therefore we want to use that. Now, another one is that we have to have a virtual network. What is a virtual network? A virtual network is exactly what it says. It's like a virtual machine within a virtual network. So it's a network that lays on top of your physical network. There's a very nice piece of software out there, which is called Zero Tier. It's for the most part open source, and you can use it without paying for it. And what we're going to do here is that we're going to create my own private or your own private virtual tier network to connect on one side the ZeroOS box, and then on another side you need a client that you will be working with to give instructions to that ZeroOS. So I already own and have a login. If you don't, then please get one. It's a very easy way to do it. You can either get yourself an account locally there, or if you have a Google account, you can log in with your Google account, which then basically gets you the information. And if you want to give me a call, that's where you can reach me. But that I've got a few networks going, but like I said, we'll do it completely from the ground up. So let's go back to networks, and let's say we want to create a new one. Then remember this, it's called Elegant Veil, which I don't really know. There's 0 people on it right now. All of these you can see are having already a few hosts and people using it. This is new. And what we need is this number. So we need to copy this. And then we go back to the ZeroOS boot file generator. And we fill in this Zero Tier ID. Then to enable the fact, again, that we disengage with all of the token economy around it, we say, I want to have the development flag on, and that means I can directly interact with it, which, as you have seen in the other videos, should never, ever be done with the production environment. And it's a key feature of ZeroOS that if and when you do deploy it in production, that you don't have any physical access to the OS. Today we want to, so that's why we have and enable the development flag and enable the support flag for our technicians in case we run into issues to be able to connect to it as well. That does, and it's hard to show you in one time, but it sort of puts in another zero-tier network, which is a zero-tier network that you as a user won't have access to, but it's a zero-tier network that we as an organization or our developers have access to in case we need to support you. So let's do the 2. Again, I don't expect to be needing support, but let's leave it on. And then we say, like I said, in order to get, it says burn into a CD-ROM to boot from, but we need a virtual CD-ROM. So let's get that ISO image downloaded, which we will do, and then use it to actually boot off my virtual machine. That should be done by now. Let's go here. So let's say I want to get this virtual optical disk, and then we should have a new download file. As you can see, I did it a few times before. 1010, 1025, 1126. Right now it's 1126, so this is the one that I need. All of the same size, probably all of the same content, but just for the sake of having a full demonstration. Now, virtual machine is loaded. We've got memory assigned to it. We've got a number of cores assigned to it. Didn't check that, but it's probably 2, just 2. Memory is 4. The processor is 1. I've got 8, so let's give it 2. Let's make it a nice virtual machine. So we've got 2 cores, 4 gigs of memory, and a ever expanding hard disk. Press start, and then when I boot, again, the ZeroOS boot files that we downloaded with the identifier for as you can see, It's got the development flag, it's got my zero-tier network, and the two parameters. That's the development version, I'm sorry, the development flag and the support flag here, which will give it access without, again, that whole token economy attached to it, which is what we want. So it's now booting it. As you can see, it booted, well, you probably didn't see it because it was really, really fast. So it booted very quickly, and that's a very small file. Going back to the size of the file, which you can have a look at here in downloads, a new one, downloads. If we then go and date edit, also the other way around, you can see it's less than a meg. So it has only very little information embedded in the boot file, and then what it does, it gets all of the remaining files that it needs in order to boot from a boot server over the network. And we'll come back to it at the later stage, what it is when we start a container, because that is the same mechanism. You see two, I'll put my mouse pointer there, and I go when big it can. Anyway, there's two virtual tier, zero-tier network, two virtual zero-tier networks listed there, all started with a Z. One has already received an IP address, which is the support one. And then the other one, the ZT3, doesn't have, and therefore we need to go to the zero-tier system, where it now shows that there is actually one item asking for access. We've never seen it before. We'll call it 0 OS 1. We'll give it access, and what we'll see happening in a few moments is that it will communicate with this zero-tier network, and this ZT3, there it is, we'll get a network address, which is 172.228.233/16. Very nice. What I haven't done yet, because we now have on this virtual network one node, I need to bring my laptop also onto that network, for which you have the zero-tier little app that you install. Same story, you can get it at zero-tier. I haven't done it for a long, long time, but it should have somewhere in the download section. Look here. There is the package with a installation option and a lot of other things as well. So that will get you this little app, and this little app, you can say join the network, and let's join the network that we just created, which is this one. And then let's join the network that we just created. So join, and the same trick here. Let's go back to login. Let's go back to networks. The one with one is the newest one, Adoring Limpkin. And we should see now a second. No, that's not the right one. Let's get to the right one. It's got, was it 90? Adoring Limpkin. Adoring Limpkin. Don't know anymore. There's so many. There is so many. What was this one? So what's the? No, I already used this. Should have deleted it. Damn it. There's always something that must go wrong. Compassionate. There's 7 on them. That's definitely not it. So the only one that can be this one, which is not it either. True. So silly me. It's this one. 0 is 1. And we have a new request to be part of this from 275 AE02, which then should be 275AE02 should be me. So that's it. Here we go. Let's give it permission. Let's give it a name. MacBook Pro. That's me. I'm online. All should be good. And then the proof is always in eating the cake. So let's create a new terminal. And as I noticed before, this can take a little while for this to work, but I'm now going from my MacBook, which is this address. I should be able to ping this address because it's local. Well, first of all, let's see if it's there. 172.268.60.16. That's this one. And then we should be able to ping 172.28233. 178.28.233.29. And this is what I had last time as well. Be patient, it will come by. I don't know what it needs to do in order. Both from the zero-tier central facility have seen that my MacBook is online and that my Zero OS is online. But the ping from one to the other takes a little bit of time. In the meantime, we'll start doing the other bits and pieces so that we don't lose any time in this video, or I can pause it until we're back. Let me pause it. I'll pause it, and when I come back, it's there. See you. Hey, back again. As you can see, my mistake was here that I pinged the wrong address. It is 178, which is not going to work, right? And right now I've got the right one, which is 172. Sorry, it's such a mess always. Anyway, so now I can go from here to the virtual machine and back, which we've proven now with ping. That's the first part of it. We've got the box, which is up and running. It's got 2 zero-tier networks connected to it. We've got a laptop, which is connected to the same virtual network, and they can talk. So now we need to start getting some instructions. And for that, I always need a little bit of help. And what I do is, you go to the GitHub site, and you need to have an account. I think I do have an account. And we go to ZeroCore, which is the ZeroOS/ZeroCore repository. Again, we'll publish the URL in a document that you can get to there easily. There is documentation in here, which we will be working through this. And what I would like to do is to actually, there's a number of different ways that you can actually create commands. Again, there's a lot of commands available that you actually can do, which is all explained here. But I'd like to talk through the Python client with the Zero OS, and in order to actually have that working, what you need is an installation of Python 3, which is installed. And what is better is IPython, because it gives you an interactive shell that you can work with. So this is what we're going to use. And the way we do this is that we actually go, so we got this now, we go to interaction, I'll create that, and then we say let's create something that has an actual container, or that can deploy an actual container. There's a number of, this is the description, and I need to pause you for just 1 second. I will back again. Paused because I needed to look up one slightly different command here in my Telegram. Anyway, so we'll go step by step. We need a library of commands that we have been building, and that is also free available. So we need to load that into the shell, which it will get certain client commands from where, and first and foremost, we need to specify where this 0OS exists. So we need to have the IP, which is here, 192.282.3.29, 172.172. So this 172.28.233.29. That's the IP. Get that into a variable. Then we need to have the 0 tier definition on which this 0OS lives. I believe we have that still in the buffer, but we don't. So I'm going to look it up. 0 tier. Log in again. And I take the right one because otherwise we'll not be very happy. And then it was this one, elegant veil. Quickly go back to IPython. Say we now have it. We've got defined the IP and the 0T network. And now we get to communicate to it. We first specify what type of network interface we want to use or to give, so to say, the container that we're going to start, which is the definition where it exists. And we're going to get this command, which we'll play around with a little bit later on, which will actually get a container built. And if you have a look at the screen, you will see here next to my pointer, but it disappears when it goes on the window, that there's a number of containers is 1. And we're now specifying, and this is what I wanted to talk about earlier as well, F-lists. What are F-lists and why do we use them? Well, 0OS is a very minimal operating system, and it doesn't have any local installed footprint, because you saw me booting from a virtual CD-ROM, which had only less than a megabyte of data on it, which was basically the very low-level initial boot file that we needed in order to be able to access the network cards. That was more or less the only thing that we needed. And then once we had access to the network cards and they were recognized, you saw that in the boot process, and you will see if you do it yourself, that it reaches out and gets all of the files that it needs to boot through the same mechanism as that we're looking at here, which is F-lists. And what are F-lists, and why do F-lists make such a huge difference compared to others? Again, there's no locally installed footprint, and that's a very nice way of downloading the file, but that's not what I wanted. Let's delete the last bit. So F-lists are like a central network connected file server that contains files that are certified and have a fingerprint on it through cryptography. So all of these official apps, and we don't have much yet, but we have what we are developing, have lists of files, file lists, F-lists, that have been built centrally by people that we trust, by organizations that we trust, and that have created like you see, there is a checksum on this that we actually know and actually need to basically get these files verified, stored in a central position that they can't be tampered with. And if you go to this particular one and say, show me the content, you can see that this is a very large one. So it's 9,710 directories in which 47,000 odd files exist. A lot of files, but it's, as some of you will recognize, is part of or a scaled down Ubuntu installation, as it says in the name. So we store this once, we store this central, and all of the, so we're going to use this to start a container, all of the containers that you're going to start are going to read this file from this central networked file server, which means there's only one single copy, one source of truth, of which all of these containers boot from. And once booted, that exists all in memory, so you can start changing those things. You can start adding pieces of software. You can start adding your own pieces of software that run and can obviously be functional for you. So this is what we need, and this is also what we specify. And I have to stop because my wife is calling. 1 second. Back again, all good, no panic. She's coming back, so we've got like 5 minutes left to finish this. So networked file servers, there will be a few of those obviously rolling out, that will serve you files that are certified, that have fingerprints, that can't be tampered with, and again, one single source of truth. So one version of that particular file list. Again, very different, and I don't want to dish anything because I think Docker did a great thing, but very different than what Docker does. Docker gets for each and every container a binary copy of all of the files that it needs. We think it's wasteful, so we found another way. We're actually having file lists that you get from a central server. And then as you can see, it's exactly what this command says. So this, again, in the library that we loaded here, we said there is a construct to start and create a container. We give it 2 parameters. We give it 1 parameter, that is, that's why you can find your F-list, and it's this Ubuntu F-list that we talked about. And the network specifications are in here, which is it's a default one and it's connected to a zero-T network. We want the container to connect to a zero-T network because that's how we will get to it again. So from, just to make that point, from actually starting the IPython client, I said import a library. Then I said this is where you can find a ZeroOS. This is a zero-T network that you are part of. Then I combine those two into, this is the definition of the network that you have to give to the container. And then we say this is a container create command where we actually ask it to go and search for its boot files on this F-list server. So 5 lines, huh, guys? Just remember, and girls, sorry. 5 lines. So we now see that containers here, just right of my pointer is 1. And if I'm right, and if I've done it right, which I think I did, then what we'll see is that that container goes to 2 when I press this command, and it will actually, over the network, talk to the API of ZeroOS. It will say you need to boot a container. You will have this piece of information, which is this is the F-list you need to use, and these are the network specifications that you have to pass on to that container. Here we go. Yes, and I said 5 is not enough. I've got 1 piece. It's a live demo, so things can go wrong. I forgot actually to tell and define what my CL is. So that's a bit silly, but silly videos are fun as well. And now there's even more silliness happening because this should be all done and dusted in no time. So either I did the wrong thing because it says can't connect 172.2.8, 172.2.8, 233.2.9. Yeah, because, oh my god. Anyway, you'll see, and when you start doing this, you'll make a few of these as well. I hope, otherwise I'm just stupid. So this should be 29. It's a different IP. Just look at this window here, 29, not 19. Then we say this one. Now it gets to it because it now can actually find a ZeroOS, and now we go back to this container. Again, it's a little bit more messy, but it's now 6 things that we have entered since the start of it. And again, watch this one, the container should go to 2 if I do this. And there we go. We now have 2 containers. One is the robot that cares for the ZeroOS and does all sorts of things with it, the API, for example. Now the second one is mine. I've started a container on this ZeroOS that exists and that has an install base of some software. We'll now try to connect to it. So again, conceptually, virtual network is connected to 0s. Within the 0s, we now have the container running, and I've got the laptop that's connected to the 0s as well. So I should be able to, there's my wife again, oh my God. Okay, that's lunch agreed for me. That should be the last interruption. Let's finish this very quickly because she's on the way, and next thing that will happen is when she rings the doorbell. Anyway, 2 containers. So we now have 1. Let's see if we can connect to it. But before doing that, I still have to say and tell my 0-tier network, which is this one, where there now is a new kid on the block. That is container number, let's mark them 2, because we had already 1 running on it. I'll tell it that that is okay. Let it connect, and you will see in a second or 2 or 3 that there will be an IP address now associated with it, which is the 0-tier virtual network IP address of the container. Let's go to my window and say, okay, from my laptop, first of all, a save ping where we paste the address. So I don't make any typos anymore. That's twice. It was already almost again a typo. 55, and presto, it is there and it's responding to ping. Now let's be a bit more of a daredevil. Let's go there as root, and let's paste the address here as well. Cool. So will I now be able to, oh my God, you can see I'm logged in to my container. If I didn't type a pass, no, took a little bit of a while. So I'm now logged into this little container that exists here. I can do it because it's kind of a, nice, neat little container. It's got a Core X master process running. It's got an SSD server and a bash shell running because that's what I'm using. And I just typed in top to show all the processes that are running. That's it. And just like any other Ubuntu, for the ones that know Ubuntu, you can say, okay, have a look, update your database of packages that are available. It will reach out. It will get those packages all listed and downloaded from that central Ubuntu site, so it can talk to the outside world. I'll see if anything is outdated. No, so we've got a good image, and then if we want to install stuff, we just use the normal commands. And the one thing that I use containers a lot for is for video surveillance. You need a lot of additional libraries for that. You can install those, and off you go. You can actually build yourself a very neat little container that will do your work, which you want it to do. So I hope that is a very simple and clear explanation with a few typos on how to actually very simply and very elegantly, not almost, or very elegantly interact with ZeroOS. And this is video number 1. We'll make some more with some more interesting stuff. Thank you.